Welcome to the Houndsman XP podcast, and this week we are with the Houndsman XP team, and we're just going to meander through the countryside here and talk about a lot of different topics, but we've got Steve. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Chris. Doing really good down here in the swamp.
In the swamp. Yep. It's Christmas.
In the swamp.
It's Christmas time as we record this from the swamp, and Christmas in a retirement community looks pretty festive.
Oh yeah, it's all that and a bag of chips, man. I tell you, we've got Christmas decorations on every little village sign. Let me tell you about this place that I live in. Okay,
right. Yep.
There's like 2,000 residents in here. That means individual homes. Okay,
mm-hmm.
And at one time it was a golf course community, and over time, I guess everybody got too old to play golf and retired to the shuffleboard courts or something like that. But anyway, there's still golf carts are permitted from daylight till dusk, okay? And so you got to dodge those as you drive around the community. But within this big community, there are individual villages. And I guess this is designed so that the old people like us can find our way back home, you know, when we get into the village, because there's a big sign that lists all these villages, and there's like 20 villages within this community. And so then each village, as you go down the street, it has a sign. I happen to live in Oakwood Village. So somebody takes it upon themselves to decorate that. So, you know, we got like 20 different villages, all decorated little signs and stuff. And yeah, it's quite festive. It really is.
Sounds like something out of J.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit or something.
Now, Steve, even though you've got your own little village, do you have to put the reflective little dots on trees in order to find your way home?
No, actually, I've got it memorized pretty well. I mean, I come in the main drive and I go 2 streets down, and then I turn right, and then I'm down about the 5th house before you make the curve. So, yeah, I've kind of got it memorized now.
Good.
And the GPS helps, you know. If
Definitely.
I can see the numbers, on the GPS.
Now, my grandparents live in a retirement community in Illinois, and then they'd winter in Arizona. So I'd visit quite a bit. And yeah, I did come down during Christmas time or saw pictures and Mardi Gras and all this, and they decorate their golf carts and have parades, and it was a big hoopla.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of things to do here. You know, we have a huge clubhouse and a big pool. And the guy, the guard at the pool told me when I first moved in, I got to warn you, do not splash water on the little old ladies and mess up their hairdos. If you do, you're going to pay. So I try to pick up on those little nuances, you know, of the thing, and try to be a good sport about it, you know.
Yeah.
But actually, the truth be known, I'm probably the only coon hunter in this whole village.
I would say that's probably a safe bet.
That is very believable.
Yeah.
That's why I travel so much, you know, get away from here.
And as you can hear, we have Lauren on the line. Lauren Brandy's on the line with us today, too. Lauren, how are things from the farmette?
Well, like we discussed before, this is a farm. It's pretty big, but it's good. I'm working through a cold right now, so to all our listeners, I apologize in advance if I sound a little bit more nasally than the usual Wisconsin nasal talk.
Nasal on steroids. Maybe.
Well, I've got some tea and honey next to me, and some, you know, good old essential oil, and I'm doing good. Things are chaos over here. I've got the 2 adult dogs, and then I've got 2 puppies, a male and a female, that just turned 4 months old, and they are all inside. So it's always a show over here.
Yeah, I can think of how to describe that show probably, but it's probably not appropriate for the podcast.
Yeah, my mom says chaos follows me wherever I go, and you know what? This is my life, so this is what I chose.
Yeah.
Keeps me entertained, keeps me on my toes, and but it's fun to watch them grow up, and I can't wait to start them and really see where these guys take off.
Well, I am still here in Bear Branch, and the winter chainsaw shuffle is in full mode, and keeping the wood burner filled up and a wood pile next to it, trying to stock up wood for my upcoming Western tour here. And so it's busy, and still trying to do a few jobs here and there, even though it's cold, to get me some walking around money for Arizona when we get out there in a couple weeks. So, yeah.
We are less than a month away.
Absolutely. By the time this podcast comes out, we'll probably be within a couple weeks, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking at probably around New Year's when this comes out. So, Happy New Year to all of our Houndsman XP fans that are listening out there. And Steve, you've been doing a lot of traveling lately. Let's just kind of give people a rundown on the meandering, wandering around of Steve Fielder this fall.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I suffered through one of the hottest summers that we've had down here in Florida in my memory. It was just stinking hot all summer, and of course humid, and that's not conducive to enjoying hounds, unfortunately. But I figured, this fall I'd try to get out and do as much as I can while the weather's cooler. So, yeah, I've had quite a busy fall. I started back in October, went up to Pennsylvania, coon hunted a couple nights up there, stopped back through Virginia and did a night in the mountains there with my friend Heath Hyatt, who I think our listeners may be familiar with by the time this podcast airs. So had a good time, and that was to pick up Cruz, my Walker pup, who's been in summer camp up there all summer with Randy Smith. And yeah, had some good hunts. And the thing that I was thinking about this before we recorded today, and this might be a word of encouragement to some of the listeners out there that may be, as I am, getting up there a little bit in age. Through that hot summer, I was feeling pretty lethargic, feeling like, man, I don't know if I've got the energy to get out there and really enjoy a hunting season this year or not. But just getting out and doing it, man, that's the key. Because from going to Pennsylvania, hunting a couple nights in the hills there, then down to Virginia, where I actually had to do some pretty steep climbs up to the dogs a couple times. Then went to Arkansas and Mississippi, which that's pretty easy hunting, but I did that. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead of my story here, but I'll try to be brief. Just getting out there this fall has made a world of difference in me, the way I feel, my ability to, my wind, my endurance. The other night we were out hunting and making some long walks to the dogs, and I said, man, I feel like this is 10 years ago, So yeah. Anyway, a word to the wise out there. If you're feeling like you just can't cut it anymore, get out there and do it, man. That's what, at least that's working for me.
Well, you've kept us updated on social media with videos and stuff, and you have been getting after it this fall. And I think that's a good topic to talk about, because that is something that we all fall. I know younger hunters that get out of the groove of hunting. They put in a full day at work, and then they think, should I hunt tonight? And it's real easy to let your butt grow into the cushion on your easy chair and not get up. But you always feel better after you get in the groove. That's for sure.
That was me last night, unfortunately.
What kind of weather are you having up there, Lauren?
Well, it's crazy. If you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes in Wisconsin. It'll change. So right now it's unseasonably warm. So last night I think it was in the 20s. today I'm looking at my phone right now. It's supposed to be 39 with a low of 26. Saturday, it's going to be a high of 40, 44, 42. And then, you know, just around the freezing mark at night. So it's going to be great coon hunting. We've got our Christmas Classic up in Plymouth on Saturday. We've got a double header hunt. So I think it's going to be great for that. But we had a cold snap for a week. It was really cold, so I didn't really go out. But like Steve was saying, when you get out, you feel good. And I've been taking the dogs out on the back 80, running up and down the hills with them, just trying to prepare myself for whatever January is going to bring. I don't know how that's going to go.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too, Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
And it's hard when you're so mentally worn after work. At least for me, you know, I don't do physical labor. It's my brain all day, and you know, I feel burnt out at the end of the day. But when I take Piper out to go potty and I notice her whining and she's not acting like she just wants to go potty. She's like, I want to hunt. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's call her up. Might as well.
You know, one of the things that I've found that keeps me going right now, I can't say that I really am, because I'm kind of in that same bracket right now, kind of in the midwinter funk maybe. But having a good hunting partner, somebody that kind of spurs you on, somebody local that can keep you rolling. I thought that might be a cool thing to talk about that we haven't really addressed on this podcast. But one thing I'd like, you know, how valuable is a good hunting partner?
Oh my gosh. And just a hunting partner in general. I don't know if I've talked about it before, but we've done with the Learn to Hunt program, and I actually made a great friend out of it. Her name's Andrea, and we try and go out at least once a week. And she lives about 45 minutes away, but she has just dove deep into this and she loves it. And she's, you know, texting me like, when are we going next? You know, look at the weather. It's looking good. Like, let's go. And she's coming with me to spectate the hunt on Saturday. And it's nice to have that push and that just an extra pair of boots on the ground just to talk to and help navigate the woods and, you know, be there to remember the shenanigans that happen when we're hunting. Like, she's got a better memory than I do, I think. And we already have some stories.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Steve, go ahead. Finish your thought there, Lauren.
I was going to say, I'll probably record it.
Yeah, good. That'd be awesome. Steve, you've been in this game a long time.
A long time.
Well, I was going to say that, but I was going to leave it for you. But, you know, what have you seen? I mean, let's dive into this a little bit. Have you ever had a trusted hunting partner that you valued spending time in the woods with?
Oh yeah, Chris. I've had several over the years, and without going through a long laundry list of them. There was a guy that was a World War II vet back in West Virginia that when my dad would be away working, I would go hunting with him. Howard Meadows, he and I spent many, many nights together. I was young. I would call him up, and I could tell by his voice that he really didn't want to go. He was tired. He had a severe injury and walked with a very pronounced limp. But he would go all night once you got him out there. And so I'll always remember Howard. He was a great hunting buddy. And then when I moved to Michigan, there was an older farmer there, Bud Bauer, who was a retired coon hunter. He had quit altogether. And his hearing wasn't good from working in the paper mills there. But I coaxed him out, and we started hunting together, and we hunted many, many nights together while I was there. And then kind of fast forward to today, Nubbin Moore lives in Birmingham, Alabama area. He and I worked together at UKC. He was a field rep. And he and I got to be friends over the years. And, Nubbin and I have traveled a lot of miles now together. We've been 10 years now going to the White River in Arkansas. And it's interesting. We had planned to go out to Batesville, Mississippi this year for the UKC Winter Classic, but it falls on his birthday and Valentine's Day. So his wife has a big deal planned. So that kind of, put the stops on our Batesville trip. But so we planned a 3-day hunt in Alabama in February. So we'll be up there at a new spot, cabins, 4-wheelers, the whole bit. So, yeah.
Ooh.
Well, what have you looked for in hunting partners over the years? What's an essential thing that you need in a hunting partner? Not only what you're looking for, but I also want to talk about what we can do to be a good hunting partner.
Chris, I'm following your train of thought perfectly on this, and I think the latter that you mentioned there is probably the more important of the two, and that's what kind of a hunting partner can I be? And here's what I try to be. I try to be accommodating to the other person's wishes. It's not all about me. It's not all about my dog. Just little things. I met a new hunter here in Florida recently, and and when he and I went hunting the first time, I offered to buy gas. He said, "Well," he looked at me like, "What?" Little things like that, and be complimentary of the other guy's dog. Be accepting of the other guy's way of hunting if it's not necessarily your way. Don't be I particularly have to be careful about saying, well, I've been doing this for so many years and this is the way you need to do it. And that doesn't work. You have to kind of ease in to the pool, stick your toe in, see how the person operates, and try to match his or her style as much as you can. Now, if it's a brand new hunter, they have lots of questions, and of course we want to answer those. But so being a good hunting partner ourselves, I think, is the first job. But then secondly, find somebody that you just feel comfortable with. I've said this for many years about people. Would I want to get in the truck and drive 500 miles to a hunt with this guy? And if I can say, yeah, I think I would enjoy that experience. And certainly, in the case of Nubbin and me, that
guy's like gold. He's a good guy.
Never had anybody ever say anything bad about the guy.
Yeah,
I'm yet to hear the first word. And I've been blessed with a lot of hunting buddies like that. But what we do is we just try to go at our own speed. We don't try to push each other. We don't, we try to be honest about what the dogs are doing, but not critical. And if I say if my dog messed up and I'm telling him it's the tail of the hunt, I tell him that the dog messed up. He does the same. It's just being comfortable, I think, with someone. And that's not easy to find because we all have our own ideas about the way that things should work. And I think that's what social media has done a lot to harm our sport.
Oh, my gosh.
Because people are so critical of other people and the way they do things.
Well, we see. Go ahead, Lauren. I've got a thought, but I want you to jump in.
Yeah, and in the end, we're out there to have fun. We're there for the camaraderie. We're there just to, see our dogs, hear our dogs, and that's what it should be. I mean, sure, some of my friends and I will have a little friendly competition. I'll strike this dog, and she's treed before, blah blah blah. But that's because we're friends, and that we know how it's going to go.
I used to be like that, and I used to do that, and now I've gotten to the point where I just look at people and say, I didn't realize we were in a night hunt.
Right.
We do it jokingly.
Well, we did too, and I guess for me and some people take it the wrong way, but one of the things that I see constantly, and I've been guilty of this myself. And I think this is just a normal part of maturing, not only as a hunter, but also as a person, is humility is underrated in our culture. We do not celebrate humility the way we should.
Yeah, that's true.
Agreed.
And, it seems like every time I go with a younger or a newer houndsman, then they feel the need to impress. Tell me the things that they know, the things that, and like I said, I've done this myself. I've been through this phase myself. And the most enjoyable hunts I have is when everybody is just being very open and honest about things. What's your dog doing in there? The best he can do. That's what he's doing. There's no expectation of miracle workers and, wonder dogs and all this other stuff. And just approach it with humility, and that gets a lot of invitations back to hunt. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mentioned that I met a new hunter recently, and right up front, he told me, hey, I haven't been doing this very long. I don't know anything. He said, I have difficulty sometimes knowing what the dogs are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can't learn that overnight. I mean, you don't learn that in your sleep by osmosis or something.
Exactly. And that's what I always tell new people. And I said, well, just the more time you can spend with that dog and listen to that dog and try to understand what that dog is telegraphing to you when it barks a certain way. Is it confused? Is it confident? Is it frustrated? All those kind of things. The dog can't talk, but he can or she can really communicate with that handler that's tuned in. So those are the little things that I try to talk about with people, without trying to present a holier than thou attitude,
Mm-hmm.
that you need to listen to me because I know everything and you know little. And man, this must have been your lucky night to get to go hunting with me,
Yeah. Can I share a quick story about my recent West Virginia trip, because it's real relevant to what we're talking about. Okay, so I tried to get out to West Virginia and hunt with Evan Workman out there in northern West Virginia, and Evan hunts with a group of people. And to break this down for you, this group of people, you've got a couple guys in the group that are the ground pounders. They still, if there's not snow on, then they're walking their dogs through the woods, down the ridges, and everything like that. And to lay this out, everybody's got a radio. Everybody's using the same tracking equipment, the Astro 320, so everybody can see everybody's dogs.
And this is bear hunting.
Bear hunting, yes.
Yep.
So these guys are all bear hunting. Now, in this group, you have your ground pounders. You've got your support guys that when one of the ground pounders' dogs hit a track and run it into some remote area, then they can move around and be able to put fresh dogs or pack dogs in on a bear race. Or if the dogs need to be caught, they can catch dogs. You've also got people in this group that don't even have a hound. They're on every bear hunt, but they never have a hound with them. And they're sitting there and they're tracking dogs, they're communicating on the radio, they're keeping everybody informed, and they just work together like a well-oiled machine, a team that everybody knows what their job is, and they're there to support for one common cause, and that is to catch black bears in West Virginia. And when you sit back and you watch this and you dissect it, you realize how much humility, and I keep going back to that, there is involved in that. Because I'll give a shout out to a guy that doesn't get a lot of press over there, but that's Brian Short. Brian is a guy that is a support guy. He's tracking, he's got dogs in his truck, but he doesn't need to be the guy out there on the ridges putting in those miles, because he's better utilized in that support role. Now, will Brian get out of the truck and get into a tree? Yeah, we walked over a mountain, and Brian's already there at the tree with some other houndsmen, and he's doing his thing. He knows what he's doing. Then you've got Brian Hudkins that doesn't have a dog, but he knows those mountains like the back of his hand. And he can tell you, hey, they're going into this creek or they're going into this area, and keep everybody informed. There's retired guys that come out that do the same thing. They know the mountains, and they can track dogs, and they're keeping everybody directed, and they're very effective and very efficient doing that. That's just a cool system that they've got going over there.
Well, you've described exactly the group that I spent a week hunting with in December in Virginia, not all that far away, with Heath Hyatt and Glenn Price and all of those guys over there, and they operate just the way you described that, Chris. There's a lot of different players with different jobs, and there's no meeting at the beginning of the hunt to say, okay, you're assigned to this and you're assigned to that.
Yeah.
They just assume that, what they're good at. They know what their capabilities are. I walked to several trees in that week. I also stood on the road when I could see that bear up there on the top of that mountain.
I saw that video.
You could see him, but it's like a black speck. I said, this boy is going to stay here. And
I remember that video.
Yeah.
I remember that video. But yeah, everybody falls into their own role. And there's a group up by us when we bear hunt called Sioux River, and we interact with them. And, sometimes we end up merging with them in hunting that has the same kind of system worked out. So it's kind of fun to meld into that group once in a while. And, if we ever need help, we know their channel, they know our channel. And, they're there if you need them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
excuse me, Lauren, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know what you were going to say, Steve, but I was going to talk a little bit more about being accommodating.
There you go.
Sure. So sure, you've got to be accommodating, in the woods and how you hold yourself and things like that. But also for me, my current hunting buddy, Andrea, well, first of all, she doesn't have a hound. She's new to this. So there's a lot of questions, and I'm so happy to answer them. And I get excited when she's got something like the first time she spotted a coon by herself, the first time she handled a dog, or what it could be. But accommodating too in our hunting relationship is, we kind of trade off. Okay, am I coming down by you to hunt? Or you want to come up here? She gets a coon, I get a coon. We trade off, depending on how many coon we get, or one night she keeps it, the other night I keep it. Things like that. So that's another thing, like during hunting season, that you've got to keep in mind as well.
Agreed. And the value of a good wheelman or woman is underrated. Donnie Walston and I hunt quite a few times together a year, and occasionally his dad, Jay, will go with us. Well, Jay's not going to walk these hills and hollers like we can, and nobody can walk them like Donnie does, so I do the best I can. But Jay is down on the road, so when we're walking out to the next road, it's not always easiest to walk back to the truck. He will meet us around there, So, a word of encouragement. I know so many houndsmen or especially coon hunters here that once they can't walk or once they can't do the physical part, they just kind of go to seed and they don't get involved. And I would encourage these hunters with years and decades of experience to stay after it and be involved where they can and how they can. Because when we get around to the truck, Jay will have his analysis of what happened in there and have some valuable information. Say, hey, I heard this dog doing this on this hillside, and we listen to it. We listen to it. So
well, and that's our job too with our elders who aren't able to get out there as well as we can. Is don't leave them by the wayside. Don't forget about them.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing, and especially I think this has applied to me, is get a young dog. Get a dog that you're excited about. and get out there. You know that dog needs to be out. The dog needs to be worked. So get out there with that dog. Maybe you can't go 5 or 6 nights a week. You can go 1 or 2, and that's always a good incentive to get out and get to the woods is have a dog that you enjoy, and that's where I am right now with this Walker pup. I'm having a lot of fun with him. I see progress, every time we go. And, but that's been a real, game changer for me when, my Hoss dog, my Plot, is getting old. He's 11. I'm certainly not getting any younger. It'd be pretty easy for me.
I can't believe he's 11 already.
Yeah. It's unreal, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. And it would be real easy for me to say, well, Hoss, you and I, we've had a lot of fun. Let's just sit by the fire. And share the memories, but I'm not to that point yet. In fact, I'm kind of really getting the fever again.
Good.
So, yeah.
Piper's, I had a literal fever the other day, but Piper's definitely got me. Like, I am so giddy every time I go out with her, and I have this grin on my face, and I've never had a dog like this. And I am so excited.
Do you notice, Chris, how she's talking like a veteran already?
Oh, yeah.
I've never had a dog
like this, and this is actually her second dog, right?
Right, yeah.
No, that's great, Lauren. That's fantastic. Yeah. She's a little coon treer. I've been watching the
oh, man.
video and all. She's doing it.
And she's getting gritty. Like, she used to not get gritty, and now she is. And man, is it fun. I mean, I guess she has fun. And then later, we play doctor, and we got to drain the abscess and all that. But
right.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I always look for in a hunting partner is somebody that can also be dependable. Somebody that's not going to bail out at the last second.
Yeah.
And things happen. I get that, but I got taught a long time ago. I was 12 minutes late to meet somebody, and this older hunter that I was hunting with looked at me and said, "You had 3 more minutes," and I was leaving. And he wasn't joking.
Oh.
So I think we have to be courteous of other people's times, and have that expectation that if you can't be on time, that you're going to get left and not get butthurt over it when you do.
Or let me put that in perspective.
Go ahead.
When I take Ella to work, and she's still working, she tells me this is her last year, but we'll see. But when I'm supposed to pick her up at 4:15, I don't go at 4:30. Yeah. I don't go at 4:45. If at all possible, I'm there at 4:10.
Right.
Because I understand
exactly
that she's not going to be happy. And as they say, if Mama isn't happy, nobody's happy. But that has always been a problem, I think, with hunters is, I couldn't make it. He'll go on hunting. It's no big deal. But and I know I used to frustrate my buddies in Raleigh, North Carolina. When I lived there, there were a couple older hunters. And, occasionally I'd be 10 or 15 minutes late. And I would always call, though, and say, I'm running late. I'm sorry, But that was on me. I shouldn't have been late. I should have somehow left 10 or 15 minutes early.
Well, sometimes that's, but it's not something that's, constantly happening with you. Occasionally things happen, but you've got some people who feel like that. I mean, it's just you've got people that are chronically late all the time. And that's just being inconsiderate. I'm just going to say it. I'll just put it out there. It's being inconsiderate. Yeah. You are worried about, you aren't putting enough importance on this other person's time to plan your day, plan your drive, plan your, how long it's going to take you to get loaded up. Your hunting room probably, if you have one, probably looks like a disaster area, and you're looking for your boots every day. You know, you're looking for your Garmin your Garmin handheld every day, every time you go hunting. You know, you can't remember where you put your car keys. So just organize a little bit, you know?
Well, when you get my age, you have to have a place for everything because you will not ever find it if you don't.
Steve, you've had a place for everything as long as I've known you. Anybody that looks in the top of your dog box, I mean, everything is compartmentalized up there. We have dog collars in this container here. We have leashes here. We've got double snap. I've never seen anybody that's listening to this. If you have an opportunity to look in the top of Steve Fielder's dog box, you need to do it.
Chris, I think you just described what my hunting room / my laundry room with what I'm recording for looks like now. I mean, people know me. I try not to be late, but I'm organized chaos. I know where everything is most of the time. But it's a little chaotic, and a lot of that right now has to do with limited plugs in this old farmhouse. There is like one outlet in every room, and it's kind of hard to get everything charged that you need to charge in the same place. So
A word to the wise, the first thing you do when you get in from the hunt is you put your equipment on charge. The very first thing, because something will happen that you'll forget, or maybe feed the dog if you normally feed them when you get in from hunting. But
yeah,
Jimmy Phillips, yeah. We used to go down to southern Georgia and hunt with him. When you come in from hunting with Jimmy Phillips, okay, he's got every single thing organized. I mean, everything is organized. Every dog goes back in its kennel. Every dog gets fed. Then he gets out his Windex and he sprays down every collar and wipes down every single tracking collar.
Oh my!
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it goes right back in his spot. But you know, I'm not saying we need to go to that extreme all the time, but that's a system that works for him. And I picked up something from it. When I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, this doesn't take this long to be somewhat organized here. So
right.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, like, I'm not to that Windex part yet. Piper's still carrying around blood from last Friday, so yeah.
Well,
judge me all you want, followers.
Hey, Chris, can I get back to this little tour, a little bit about my fall hunts?
Yeah.
And then we can move on to...
We'll spin off of that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I went to Mississippi and hunted Cruz in his first licensed hunt. That was on a Friday night.
We didn't get any update on that.
Well, yeah, that's probably one of the reason why there wasn't much to say.
Okay.
Humility, Steve.
Right. We went a day early for our White River trip and went over to our good friend Mike Crockett's there in Mississippi around Senatobia. That's just kind of south of Memphis. And Mike's always very accommodating. And it's almost like he runs a bunkhouse there. He's a cowboy. I mean, he does it. He ropes. He's got some really nice roping horses there, and he builds metal fences out of pipe, farm fences and corrals and all kinds of stuff. Real interesting guy. And it's been a really good breeder of black and tan coonhounds for a number of years. But anyway, their club had a doubleheader, and I went out. It's a 1 hour hunt on the early round, so I drew Mike with a black and tan female, and drew a fellow with a 3 or 4 year old Walker dog, and we made too many trees. Let's just put it that way. But it was kind of interesting. Right down at the end of the hunt, I'm sitting first and first. For our listeners, that means I got first strike, I got first tree, and I'm thinking, if I've got a coon here, I win this thing. Good for me. And it was as slick as the proverbial doorknob. So, you know, that's the frustrations of hunting a young dog with other dogs that want a tree a lot. And so that's kind of what happened. And I made the decision not to hunt in the second round because I knew I would be drawing probably some more of the same. And I'm not blaming the other dogs. Mine was just as guilty. So but it was his first trip to town, first time he'd been introduced to a cast of dogs and all. And there were no problems, whatsoever. But
that sounds pretty much just like Piper's first hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, getting back to this hunting buddy thing real quick, and I'm going to go down a rabbit path here, but a lot of times people want to hunt alone because they have a young dog that they want to solo out. And I understand that. And I try to be accommodating in that regard. My buddy down here, Gordy's got a young plot female that he's hunting right now. She started well. She's doing good. She's only about coming 9 months old. So he's hunting her a little by herself. And I understand that for sure. But anyway, Arkansas was not the White River experience that it usually is. This year, the coon population was down due to severe flooding virtually all year long out there. During the breeding season, they even say the squirrels and the deer and all that is down considerably this year. So we did tree coons every night, and we harvested from 1 to 4, I think was probably the count. But it was kind of slow this year compared to other years. And but then I went up to Virginia. We took that little boat ride over to the Bahamas with Ella and her daughter and grandkids, and enjoyed that. That was some R&R for about 5 days, and drank some little fruity drinks and sat in the sun and played bingo and all that exciting stuff that you do on a cruise apparently. But went to Virginia, bear hunted for 5 days, treat a bear every day up there. So we had a great time up there. And that's pretty much the recap on that fall tour.
Yeah. Lauren, tell us about just give us an overview of what you've been doing since the weather turned cold up there with your blue ticks.
Getting out as much as I can, and I know I should be out more. Just coon hunting. That's what I do in the fall and the winter, and there's not a whole lot to say. Like I said, Piper and I have been having fun. I took Timber out a couple times, who is Piper's aunt on her dad's side. And Timber is a dog that I got when she was about 3 years old, and she wasn't hunting and, kind of was doomed. And I took her, and we're trying. We're definitely trying. She's a tree dog, but the whole track situation we're still working on. And I think it's a lot of confidence. She likes to follow Piper, and she needs to get hunted alone. I actually loaned her to Andrea the other night, and Andrea had a little bit of fun with her. We've been getting in swamps, thickets. We call the coon that we've been treeing lately, we've been calling them super coon, because these things, A, will just not die. And B, you are going through the worst territory to get to them. They are smart. I will give them that. Very smart. Or it's just Piper is a colder nosed dog, so she will pick up a track and she will take it, and she'll cold trail for a long time, and that means the coon could be far away. So we've gotten into some nasty stuff. We've gotten lost in the woods, and I will say,
you've got
honestly,
lost.
Oh yeah.
For how long? Are you talking lost for days, or are you just talking temporarily disoriented?
Temporarily disoriented, like okay. Going the wrong direction for a while, and then looking, and you're like, oh crap. But I'll tell you, like, looking at the Garmin, I don't necessarily like it as much to get out of the woods than getting my phone out and using Onyx. I will tell you that right now. It has been a savior when we were in these like thickets where you couldn't, even if with your light, everything looked the same. You're in these big bushes in a swamp, so you're knee deep, and the branches are 4 inches apart everywhere. Mm-hmm. So you are, it's hell. It's what it is. Yeah. Like if I had to, if hell happened, that would be it. For me.
Hey, Lauren, let me interrupt real quick. The guy I went hunting with this week, he says, they told me to get a coon dog, they said. You'll have fun, they said.
That's right. That's right. Hey,
that is the ongoing saying.
I'm going to tell you what. Garmin's are a wonderful tool. OnX Hunt is a wonderful tool. But, man, it has made a bunch of ignorant idiots out of all of us when it comes to traveling the woods. You know, since I got a Garmin, I mean, I never, ever had problems with remembering directions. It's made me lazy because I know I've got that Garmin on me, or I know I've got, different things.
Or even our smartphones, like Google
Absolutely.
Maps.
Yeah. Back in the day, and Steve can certainly relate to this, and I've been doing this for 35 years. I was a land nav guru when I was in the Marine Corps. I'd watch guys struggle with compass work and different things like that, but I'd spent so much time in the woods that I didn't have to stare at a compass all the time. I just had a sense of direction. But since I got that Garmin, I have found myself becoming extremely mentally lazy when it comes to navigating around in the woods, especially at night. During the day, I don't have a problem, but at night, I get lazy, and it's all because of technology.
Sure.
And I'll tell you, a lot of times when I do get turned around, it is new places that the dog takes me, and you're at a loss. And it's, sure, I lean on technology. I think at one point, Andrea and I were both thinking, like, do we just hunker down? Like, it's our, we got a couple hours till morning. we were literally thinking, like, we're gonna sleep here tonight.
I've got a bandana. It's called a survival bandana. It's put out by the the International Hunter Education Association, and it's got the whole deal on it about shelter and fire. And I'm gonna order one for you and give it to you. It's bright orange. You can use it to flag in the airlift and stuff like that too.
Hey, if they can see us under those thickets, even in the winter, good luck.
Yeah.
My dad used to say he had never been lost in his life. He said, I've been turned around for 2 or 3 days at a time, but he said, I've never been lost.
That's right.
So maybe that's where you are, Lauren.
Yeah. Turned around and.
Do we hunker down for a couple hours? Let's get out the survival bandana and we'll look and see how to build a shelter.
Well, we need some directions on how to survive. Like, it's 35 degrees outside. We're not gonna make it.
Well, coon hunting, one of the easiest ways to get turned around is shining a tree.
Absolutely.
You walk in and then you start shining that tree, walking around in circles. And the first thing you know, you don't have a clue which way the truck is. Yeah. Of course, now out in Arkansas, in those big, flat, open bottoms that we hunt there, we use flashing lights. We put on our ATVs. And I have a little, and the light color of choice is blue, because you can see that blue light farther than you can see anything else. And we have these little lights, it's like a strobe, like they use on the railroad, and it blinks. And we just hang it up on a limb by the four-wheeler, because here you're in just thousands of acres of woods, and it all looks the same. So, of course, you do have the Garmin and all, but that's a big help, because you can just hone in on that blinking light and just walk straight back to your vehicle, and you don't have to be looking at the Garmin and all that deal. But
go ahead, finish your thought.
I just thought of another story too. So go ahead, Steve. Finish.
Oh, no. I'm just going to say back in my day, in West Virginia, you go up the creek on the right-hand side, you come back down it's on your left. I mean,
those flatwoods like the White River bottoms, though, those are harder to navigate than in the mountains, because even against the skyline, you can see terrain features and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But when you're in that flat river bottoms or 1,000-acre cornfield, sure, you got to take some things into consideration on that stuff. I'll give you a real quick story about this. Is part of being a hunting partner, and maybe the downfalls of being a good guest. Okay, so we're hunting in South Georgia in the swamp on a plantation, and these dogs are treed 150 yards away from the truck. Now, when you hunt with Jimmy Phillips on a plantation, when you walk away from the truck, he leaves all his parking lights on, because it's pitch black down there, so that you can see the truck if you get close. And great system. So I walk in to a tree with the guy I traveled with and two other guys that just came and hunted with us that night, and Jimmy was back at the truck. We walk in 150 yards into this tree. We shine the tree, and the guys that were from Georgia, and I'm thinking, okay, these guys should know where they're at. We start walking away from this tree, and I looked at Andy and I said, we're walking the wrong way. And Andy's like, well, maybe they know a shortcut. Yeah, they knew a shortcut. By the time it was over, we waded 3 miles through swamps, over blowdowns, up and over, dry spots, and Jimmy picked us up 3 miles in 3 hours later away from there. So yeah, you can get lost in this flat country and in the flat country of this United States, that's for sure. It's harder for me.
Yeah, it's a frustrating thing to be turned around or confused or lost.
The whole time I'm walking out, I'm thinking, why didn't I just say, guys, we are going the wrong way. We're going the wrong way. Hey.
Well, you were being a good guest.
You follow your hound, I'll follow mine. I'm following mine back to the truck this direction.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I've been turned around in the swamps in the fog in Michigan. Cattail swamps, and, come out on the wrong side of the section, which is a mile square around, and then have to walk all the way back around a mile down to the corner and half a mile back. And, not pleasant stuff. But
you always get out there and you're thinking, how did I get here?
Exactly. Yeah.
The truck should be here.
I remember a hunt one time in Ohio. This was at a plot sectional. I think the club was Somerset, Ohio. And I drew out with, you guys will love this, I drew out with 3 blue ticks, and I had the only plot. And at one point, the judge, I remember saying, now, buddy, I heard that cur dog bark over there somewhere. But anyway, all night long, we were hunting these strip mines and wandering around through the real estate, and multiflora rose thickets and all kinds of lovely stuff. And he kept saying, boys, I know that truck's somewhere. That truck is somewhere. And he kept walking. Now that truck's somewhere. And I thought, yeah, it's somewhere on this green globe. That
I was just going to say that. It's somewhere.
But where is the question?
Yeah.
And we did. We walked a long way this way and that before we ever got back. But those were the days before, GPS and whatnot. So.
Right. Well, hey, we're going on an hour. And, Lauren, I know you have an appointment here in a few minutes that you need to take care of. But before we sign off, let's talk about, because this show should come out before we're in Arizona. Matter of fact, we'll just make sure it does. But let's do a little build up for this hunt in Arizona.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it for sure. I've been following your advice, Chris. I've been doing a little internet shopping for some clothing items and things like that. And I've been talking to Calvin Redhouse about a few things and getting kind of pumped about it. It's going to be a great time out there. And I can't
believe we get to go do this. And I think it's just awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. It's awesome, Lauren, and it's a great opportunity, and it's maybe one of the biggest value to me from doing this podcast is, I've said it before, but it's meeting the people that we bring on the show, and then being able to go and experience where they're hunting, see their dogs, see their style of hunting, and just experience that stuff. We've hunted with Shorty Gorham and Gary Robertson, and who else have we hunted with that we met on the podcast? Can you think of anybody else so far, Steve?
Well, there's a lot of people that are going to be on the podcast yet coming up.
Right.
That that.
Yeah, well, my experiences of hunting with people like Randy Smith, the Walker breeder up in Pennsylvania, and more recently the bear hunting canine officer in Virginia, Heath Hyatt, and the various ones, and several that I hope that we will have on the podcast. But you're right, Chris. It's a tremendous opportunity, and I will say this is going to be my very first mountain lion hunt. I've hunted, all kinds of things with hounds, but I've never hunted a mountain lion, so that's going to be a first for me.
Same here. Never even seen one in real life at the zoo or anything, but I'll tell you guys right now, I have the perfect sweatshirt.
The perfect sweatshirt. Okay.
The perfect sweatshirt.
And sweatshirts are required, right, Chris?
Absolutely.
This is my base layer. No. So it was gifted to me by someone very special, my hunting buddy Andrea, and she found it at like a vintage store, Goodwill or something like that. And I cannot wait to show you guys.
This sounds like it's going to be entertaining as well.
Yeah, I mean it's completely appropriate, so no worries about that. But yeah.
That's one of the things that I think we overlook is if you scroll through social media, you can find all kinds of premium hunting gear that you need to spend your money on, and when you get down to it, there's a lot of things that our grandfathers did that made a lot of sense. And things that you can wear in the field where you don't have to break the bank to do it. It's just having the basic knowledge of, I've looked at a lot of premium hunting outfits and I own some, but some of my go-tos are things like Warwick shirts, wool shirts, button down flannel type wool shirts and military wool gear. Some of that stuff is still very effective.
Yeah, you use what you got and buy what you need and make it all come together.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that's me. Most of my hunting gear, and it served me really well, and I've collected quite a bit over the years, but it's old school. I understand that, but I've pretty much figured out what works for me.
Yeah.
And I lived in Michigan 22 years in pretty severe winter conditions, and especially late in the winter when I'd be coyote hunting with friends and that sort of thing. So kind of learn what works for me. As I get older, I notice that warmth is more important. I think I don't know if it's our metabolism slows down or blood gets thinner or whatever, but it's a little harder to stay warm the older you get. But I think staying warm and dry are probably the two main deals.
Yeah, and I guess my point of bringing that up about how to dress in premium hunting gear is if you can look at the systems and then duplicate it, then you can be successful. I think most people, and I don't mean to throw the Eastern Houndsman under the bus, but I learned how to dress for the outdoors from my Western Houndsman friends that are in those mountains every day, and they don't overdress. They don't overdress because I'll give you a reason why. Donnie Walson one time was talking about people that would come and hunt with him when he owned big country, and they'd say, "Man, is that all you're going to wear? Is that all you're going to wear out here and to hunt? It's cold out here tonight." He said, "I don't plan on standing here long enough to get cold." you know, because that dog's going to get in there and get treat. But yeah, we bulk up with things like Carhartt insulated bibs and cotton sweatshirts and 2 base layers and a flannel shirt, and then we start walking and we get wet and we get sweaty, and then all of that material holds that moisture and it makes you miserable the rest of the day. So, you know, my typical kit for hunting in the mountains or even around here anymore is a base layer. The First Light Sawbuck pants are awesome. I mentioned before, they're like pajama pants with armor on them because they stretch in 4 ways. And that's one of the things for me as I get older is mobility and flexibility. If I'm wearing a stiff pair of pants or whatever, then I don't travel through the country as well as I used to. But there's a lot of things we can learn about how to dress for the elements and make our experience in the woods a lot more pleasurable without breaking the bank. So that's one thing we're going to get an education on for sure is dressing for the mountains. So I can't wait to see your sweatshirt, Lauren. It's going to be awesome.
I don't know if it'll be mountain gear, but it'll definitely be after the hunt gear.
Awesome.
Or, you know, dinner at night. Well, yeah.
Okay, but no ugly Christmas sweaters or anything in camp, okay?
Well, Christmas is over, but, you know, I do have a couple of them.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about some feedback we're getting from our listeners real quick.
Yeah.
You guys got anything you want to bring up? Any messages that you've gotten in regards to the podcast? I'll just kind of start it off. I've got a few reviews here on our podcast page. And by the way, the last time I checked, I'll just pull it up right now and we'll see what we got here. But the last time I checked, we had like 215 reviews on Apple Podcasts. We're up to 224 today. Okay. But people are reaching out there. They're giving us a review on Apple Podcasts and leaving us a comment. And the reason we keep encouraging people to do that is because it keeps us at the top of the game. If you go into Apple Podcasts and you click in Houndsman or type in Houndsman as a search, then Houndsman XP Podcast comes up because our listeners are going in there and they're leaving us reviews. So that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, if you're listening, it takes 2 seconds. It's right on the same page. Just give us some stars, write a couple things down.
Click that right-hand star, the farthest one on the right.
Don't give us one.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I've heard some feedback, and not to, you know, boil up some haterade or anything, but I know there's people that appreciate the younger voice. I mean, there's 20 years between each of us, between, you know, Steve and Chris and me. And maybe you know, they enjoy the female perspective or, you know, the chaos that I bring to this mix too. So
it's refreshing.
Yeah, sure. And that's kind of the idea, I think, with this team. Chris will agree, I believe, that you know, to try to have something for everyone out there. We don't all think the same, and especially as you get older, you know, I have a boatload of memories, you know, to share, but a lot of those memories may not be, you know, relative. They may not resonate with a younger person, a person that doesn't know a time when there weren't tracking collars or cell phones or any of those other conveniences, you know.
Written books, you know, maybe you were just on papyrus at that time, right?
That's right. Used to chew the end of my finger off and write it in blood on a piece of birch bark, you know.
And we're all different levels of hunting experience too.
Yeah.
Right. One thing real quick, Steve.
No.
One thing I just throw out there is this podcast is not scripted. It's not rehearsed. And when topics come up and we have something relative to say about it, then we do jump in. So that happens in every conversation we have. My wife and I have been married for almost 25 years now, and when we're talking about something, it's not always I sit back and let her complete her whole thought before I start talking. I know that would be a perfect world type thing, and we see TV shows where it's all scripted for our 30-minute sitcom where, people don't interrupt each other. But when we have thoughts, we're going to have an occasional train wreck here, and we're going to jump in and we're going to start talking. And it's not disparagement against any of we want you to listen to our guests, and we want you to hear our guests, but sometimes that just happens. So,
like today, we didn't know we were going to talk about the hunting buddies.
No, not really.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good point, Chris, and also, there's listeners out there right now that are listening to this that enjoy the banter that we have back and forth and the talks about different areas of our sport. And that's what we want them to do. We want this to be fun. I'm not, thrilled with the sound of my voice. There was a day in my life when my voice was much stronger than it is today, but it is what it is. But the thing of it is, we're not trying to impress anybody with this show, but we are trying to parlay information that we believe will be helpful to our listeners, entertaining to our listeners as they drive to work or back or from that hunting trip or whatever. I gained a hunting buddy here recently because of the podcast. He had listened to the podcast and looked me up, So there's a lot of fringe benefits for us. And the comments, I get sometimes I get comments that are not, don't give me warm and fuzzy feelings. But that's all part of it, and our good buddy Clay Newcomb with Bear Hunting Magazine podcast one time related about a video that he posted on YouTube.
Yeah. And
how there was a lot of negative feedback, And we're going to get that, and we can't be, thin-skinned about it. It's going to come. But I will say that the responses that we've gotten, either the people are very, very kind, or we are, hitting the mark for a lot of people with this show. And I hope that we can continue to do that.
Well, Steve, I'm certainly not telling people not to be critical. We don't expect everything to be rosy, and if you've got a concern or you see something we can do to improve, then send us a private message on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and we'll do what we can to address the issue. But so we understand, we get it, but we're doing well. I mean, we haven't had I really haven't received hardly any negative feedback at all. And
right.
I think we're putting content out there that goes right along with our slogan to preserve, promote, and protect our sport. And we're going to talk about things that may not interest every listener every week, but we try to include things every week that do that sort of thing, to preserve, protect, and promote. And that can be, we do that on social media. We try to post things that are helpful in that arena. We try to be entertaining, but sometimes there's just things that we have to talk about, or we're going to talk about, that are important to the survival of our sport. And I personally feel like that is our platform that we can continue to build upon.
Sure.
Right. There wasn't a venue for it before, and here we can band together.
You bet.
So I'm excited to share some of my stories and do some recording coming up, and hopefully you guys, both you, Chris, and Steve, and our listeners will get a kick out of the shenanigans that I've gotten to with a couple of people here.
It's always fun, Lauren. It's always fun.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yep.
Well, I will be recording after our Arizona hunt. I'm going to go on up through the West and go up through Utah and record another episode of the Houndsman Hound Training 101 with Jared Moss on my way up. Then I'll be in camp with a couple friends of mine up in Condon, Montana, up in that area to chase lions for a couple weeks. And then, so you guys are going to have to pick up the ball and.
Oh, we can handle it, right, Lauren?
You better believe it. No doubt.
Yeah. I think it's going to be some long-winded conversations. We might need to rope each other in a little bit.
We need to just get the ratings there. You're going to see records, no doubt.
You and your numbers, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, we just passed the 70,000 mark. I'm sure by the time this podcast airs, we'll be past 75, maybe honing in on 80,000 downloads.
That's unbelievable.
So big thanks
to everybody. It happened quick.
Yeah, really.
Yep. Well, hey, we need to sign off. I got a Christmas party to go to, and you guys got stuff going on.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, you mentioned Christmas, and I'll say this real quick, and maybe I can say it on behalf of you and Lauren as well. We hope that everybody out there has had a great Christmas, a wonderful time with your family and your friends. Everybody's been safe. A new year is upon us, and Happy New Year to one and all.
Stay safe on the roads and out in the woods.
Absolutely, and do everything you can to help preserve, promote, and protect this hunting heritage that we have with our hounds.
Absolutely, and as always, you follow your hound, I'll follow mine.